Welcome to Tales from the Trenches Tuesdays. Today I am absolutely thrilled to have my good friend Micah Garten on board with us. With over a dozen years in progressively senior roles in Ottawa charities, Micah enjoys connecting with community leaders to fulfill their passions and to help create a vibrant and inclusive future. The majority of his free time is spent reading to and playing with his two small children, but when they're asleep, he enjoys cooking for his amazing wife, Jessica. Welcome, Micah. I would probably say 3/4 of professional fundraisers are women, yet few see women as the top, as the CEOs. You've been lucky that you've been in a couple where they actually have been women, but they're kind of like unicorns. They're unique. So can you kind of talk a little bit about that and why you see there might be a disconnect?
I think it's tough to make broad generalizations. It's certainly tough to be the CEO anywhere, right? A communal organization like mine, right? It's probably quadruply tough, right? When there's a lot of different opinions, and I would hazard a guess that on some level, unfairly, when women are tough, it's pejorative in one sense, and when they're compassionate, it's pejorative in another sense, right? And I think that's really unfair, and it's not been my experience behind the scenes in working with you've mentioned a few, and I have really been lucky, to work with some brilliant people. CEO, my current CEO, and I hope she sees this and gives me a raise, but she's not just a CEO. She could rightfully do no fundraising, and I am lucky 'cause she's an amazing fundraiser, right? But sometimes as CEO, you need to make hard decisions, right? And I think people probably come after her and others more because of their gender, right?
Wow.
Yes.
Right. Well, it's kind of hard as two white guys kind of
Correct.
figuring out, well, why is this the way it is? And you've been lucky that you've had, two women CEOs. I think I've had one in all of my different postings that I've had. That being said, now a lot of the consulting that I do is with female-led organizations in the States, but that's a whole different world there. I think that the pendulum is purposely swinging the other way. And so some of these new CEOs that are coming on board are actually new to the field. So I'm helping them just kind of come up to speed.
And when you look around Ottawa, there are so many incredible, brilliant female fundraisers, right? And so it is just natural that if you are filling the ranks of the executive,
Right.
we could go across the board of women, in Ottawa who are just amazing at their jobs. And I don't want to name drop because I will forget 10 or 12, but there's a lot of
Sure.
ones.
Yeah. So it's interesting because I think that in your current position, you deal a lot with volunteers. And, so sometimes there's friction with volunteers. So how do you kind of get over that friction where, you're the paid professional, yet you're bringing this volunteer along on a canvas, but, it's kind of like, a doctor and a lay person. You're there as the paid professional, and sometimes the volunteer will say, no, we'll do it this way.
So game plan and expectation setting from the start is really the best way.
Right.
That you also got to know who your audience is, both in terms of the person you're canvassing and the person you're canvassing with, right? The amount of strategy that goes into those choices is really what makes or breaks your success in many cases, right? The current organization I work with, which you obviously worked for in the past, right, has been so successful really because of volunteers. And even though it raises quite frankly, a really impressive amount of money given the size of the donor base, right? I probably do less fundraising directly in my current job than I did in my last job, right? What my job is working and engaging volunteers and getting them to make the right asks, and sometimes getting them to make asks that they're hesitant for one reason or another to do, and them having the trust in me that they are the right person, that it is going to work out well, that I am going to arm them with all the information and the tools that they need, and that not only is it not going to negatively impact their relationship with that person, but in many cases, it's going to positively impact. We have a golf tournament every year, and as much as I hate events, as we discussed, it's a really wonderful golf tournament, and I asked two friends of mine, young guys, to chair it. And I asked them in a way like their mentors had been involved. And so I asked them in front of their mentors, which was not very nice because I knew they couldn't say no, right?
Right.
But I knew at the end of the day, it would be amazing for them business-wise, right? Because now they had a reason to pick up the phone to every C-suite leader of companies that they wanted to be working with anyways. Right. And so It was no longer the next time they called them a cold call. Right. And they, I mean, I don't want to speak for them, but I will, like, have been really appreciative for the opportunity. Like, they volunteered to do it again, because they recognize that. And that symbiotic relationship is how fundraising should be, both, on the philanthropy side, the volunteerism side, all of it.
Right. And I think that's so important, that distinction is that, you're enabling those volunteers to go out and do the best work they possibly can for your organization. And at the end of the day, their success translates to your success. And so many times people, they're hesitant because, well, if they fail, then, I've screwed up that opportunity. And I don't think that's necessarily the case.
And at the end of the day, when someone makes a gift, when somebody makes an ask, when somebody does something for charity, they need to feel good about it, right? Yes, it should be altruistic, and yes, people should just do this out of the goodness of their heart. But part of what people also should get from this is a good feeling, and that will keep them coming back. Right, that hit of dopamine is incredibly important. So our job as fundraisers is to ensure that people get that.
Well, Micah, amazing. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me. If folks wanted to get hold of you, how would they go about doing that?
I have a LinkedIn, I guess.
All right. I'll put those in the show notes.
I have Twitter. I'm not particularly active, just like I don't watch a lot of TV. Not a lot of time on the social. But they can always find me having a scotch on a Friday with my dear friend Jack at Lansdowne. So that's always a good place
there
to
you
look.
Go. Perfect. Micah, thank you so very much for joining. L'chaim.
Shana Tova, Jack.
Hi, folks. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button right here.